Welcome to Star Citizen and the second part of our 2021 preview. Today we're looking at everything that can drive or fly and is on the roadmap for this year. In the first part we already talked about the game mechanics, features and everything that has to do with the core technologies. Today we're looking at what's ultimately fun. Because in the area of spaceships and vehicles we have some interesting new releases coming up, which we will of course take a closer look at. We won't go into everything on the roadmap here, but rather the most promising candidates and the ships that are probably the community favorites. And again, right from the start, there will be some ships that have not been announced yet, are already flight ready, and they simply appear flight ready directly, as it was the case last year with the Nomad for example. But let's start with the first candidates. The MISC Hull and the MISC B, the Hull C, is not yet on the roadmap, but these ships are already relatively far in development. The Hull series has its own technology, that is, the mechanics of how it unfolds to take the cargo, that is, the main cargo feature. Interesting here is that the Hull A and Hull B are the smaller variants of the Hull series, and these can also land and take off on planets and stations. This is a trait as we currently know it is possible with the Hull A and Hull B. The Hull C, D and especially the Hull E are so large, however, that these cannot land directly on planets, at least not if they have material on board. And at least for the larger variants of the Hull series, that is the D and E version, functioning jump mechanics, that is several interconnected systems are necessary. We will have to wait here for some time until iCache and server meshing, and then ultimately also the NICs, Pyro and the additional launch system finally appeared. Infos about this can be found in the first part of the annual preview. And of course, we also need the ship-to-station docking, which is also one of the features that are on the plan this year. And as for the Hull C or D, there are of course still ships that have not been released yet, and my guess is that the Hull C is included there. The next big highlight is the Redeemer. This has been in development for a long time as one of the ship contest winners and should actually be a dropship with gunship capabilities. However, there have been individual reworks and redesigns, and the Redeemer is now more than ever a pure gunship. Of course, also armed and equipped for multi-crew, and especially the iconic wings and engines are unique here. Normally this does not fit into the design of Aegis, however, it is simply adopted here, and the iconic Redeemer will be of the highlights that will probably appear in 2021. Lastly, we have already seen a few shots of the Redeemer in the grey box phase, which means already in a relatively final design process. Details about the components, the hard points of the weapons are of course still premature, but we can assume that the pilot will also have control over one of the larger turrets, and that the Redeemer will have considerable firepower, especially if it has an appropriated crew. And the ship was once intended as a dropship and as a gunship. We can also assume that the dropship variant will gain some traction, and we can certainly take one or the other player with us here. The next ship is actually a perennial favorite for Star Citizen, and one of the ships that you automatically associate with the game, namely one of the Constellation series, the Constellation Taurus. This ship is the cheapest in the lineup of the Constellations and will appear as a pure freighter, or rather the probably best armed freighter, because the Taurus gets, like all other Constellation variants, a massive armament, which is controlled by the pilot. Only the upper gun turret, which is manable, for example in the Andromeda, is omitted in the Taurus. Also the snubfighter in the rear area is omitted, but we can expect a huge increase in cargo capacity here. Between 120 and 190 SCU are expected here. My personal tip is about 160 to 190 SCU, and thus the Taurus would be a really good offer. And if we are talking about substantial cargo capacity, then we are automatically at the Hercules Starlifter C2 or M2 variant. And with the Starlifter series from Crusader Industries, it is probably the most awaited ship in 2021. The C2, the civilian cargo variant, has 624 SCU of announced cargo space. which is the absolute maximum that will currently be available in the game, and again significantly more than, for example, a Drake Caterpillar. And also the M2, that is the military cargo variant, which is better armored and has better armament, is with 468 SCU announced cargo capacity definitely worth a good consideration. The A2 variant, that is the heavy bomber that will be available for ground or orbital bombardments, is not yet on the roadmap, and for that they would need player bases that we can destroy. Because the A2 is, as I said, a pure ground bomber. In space combat, these weapons, that is the ground bombs, do not really help us. The C2 and M2 variants are supposed to be released at the beginning of the year, with version 3.13. However, there is a small damper here. We can't expect the initial 3.13 patch. This will be a 3.13x patch, similar to the Mercury Starrunner last time. But soon we will finally be able to fly them. And once again we have a number bigger on the roadmap, namely the Polaris. One of the most awaited bigger ships is on the roadmap in 2021. However, I firmly believe that we can expect a release only in the middle of 2022. But since the Polaris also plays a role in Squadron 42, development here is prioritized, as with all other ships and mechanics related to it. More details on that in a moment. In addition, the Polaris is a large torpedo bomber, in effect a XXXL version of the Retaliator, and for this we should also need targets that we can fight with it. Which brings us directly to the next threat to larger ships, the RS series. The Iron is a laser version of the Inferno with a huge Gatling gun, both level 7, are also equipped to fight against large targets. And also for this we would need larger enemy ships than targets available in the game. And that so many resources are being put into just such ships, that is the Polaris or the RS series, actually implies that there will be soon some ships that can be fought with them. And that is definitely a right direction and also a step forwards to Squadron 42, since this should be nearing the end at some point. And my hint at this point, I think there is something big coming unannounced into play. And big is also the Nova tank, or rather the Tonk, as it is gladly called. Also this plays again a role in Squadron 42, because currently there are few ground targets we would have for a dedicated tank. Also here the development of Squadron 42 is apparently again decisive, and the Nova tank is also armed for the multi-crew. With a large main gun, laser repeaters as well as smaller guns, we also have fun with it in a team. And there is not only Squadron 42 but also an almost forgotten game mode that is still to come, Theaters of War, which would be my tip for the Tonk. Also on the roadmap are some well-known ships like the Gladius, the FA Lightning, the Sid, the Glaive, and also all the other ships that will be available for Squadron 42 either on the alien or on the human side. And with that comes a complete restructuring on new look of the alien ships. They will also get a complete new look for the persistent universe and will be much more attractive in my opinion. And under the designation Gold Standard, that is the version that all ships that we have named get, if nothing else to understand that all mechanics and features in these ships will already be built and present. This is accessible components, functioning weapon racks, or even the operation of individual switches when we press a button. Everything is animated, and not only for the persistent universe. Here we are again at the word that I would actually really can't to say again. Squadron 42. However, this does not mean that this single-player expansion will be released this year. However, an internal beta test is conceivable, in which CIG internally tests how the new features and mechanics fit in and then especially set further development on it, which would be necessary for a completion. Because with the eclat in the last year around Squadron 42, it is to be assumed that we hear again only if a beta test is tangible and there is tangible news as well as material to it. And remarkably, some ships were not on the roadmap, which should have been there. For example, a merchantman, the Corsair, or Nautilus, or the mobile refinery ship, where we first assumed the Nomad, and also occurred around the Origin 400i Stuborny holds. And wasn't there still a Xian cargo ship that was open? There would be enough possibilities here in any case to present unannounced ship at short notice to corresponding events and then mark them directly available flight ready. And yes, I admit that the Merchantman is more of a pipe dream than a candidate for release in this decade. But even so, there will definitely be one or the other surprise this year. I hope you liked the video and give me a like and a subscribe. With the ships of the 2021 roadmap, we are in for some big hits, starting with the Hercules C2 and M2. We have been waiting for these ships for a very long time, and especially the trade will be different again with the C2 variant, with its enormous cargo capacity. There are significantly more profits here, and of course the risks increase again. And in my opinion, the development journey is going strongly in one direction. You know which one I mean. But here I'm interested in your opinions and comments, which I'll try to answer all of them. And of course there is a current giveaway, namely a Titan Avenger for January. What do you have to do for that? Just be an active and visible subscriber, leave a like and put a comment under one of the videos, then you automatically take part. Good luck! And the most important at the end, a big thank you to all Patreons and channel members. Without you this would not be possible in this way. Thank you for that, and you guys definitely rock. I say goodbye, see you soon, and as always, see you in the verse.